What would you do if a single photograph, worn by time and love, became the spark for a neighborhood war? In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, where manicured lawns and polite smiles hid simmering tensions, a single act of spite unraveled bonds, exposed secrets, and left a community in tatters. This is the story of how a cherished family heirloom, a fragile wedding photo from a war-torn era, ignited a chain of events that no one could have predicted. Least of all me, Emily Harper, a 28-year-old librarian who just wanted to honor her father's memory. It started on a crisp October morning in 2024, the kind of day where the air smells of fallen leaves and nostalgia. My dad, Benjamin Harper, had passed away 6 months earlier, leaving behind a small box of keepsakes that I'd been too heartbroken to open until then. Inside, nestled among faded letters and a tarnished dog tag, was a black-and-white photograph of him and my mom, Clara, on their wedding day in 1945. Dad had been a young soldier, fresh from the European front, his uniform crisp, his smile defiant against the horrors he'd survived. Mom, radiant in a simple lace dress, clung to his arm, her eyes sparkling with hope. The photo was creased, its edges soft from years of careful handling. But to me, it was a lifeline to a father I'd lost and a mother I barely remembered. I decided to share it with the neighborhood at the Willow Creek HOA's annual Heritage event, a gathering where residents displayed family treasures to celebrate our collective history. I framed the photo lovingly, mounting it on a velvet board with a small plaque, Benjamin and Clara Harper, 1945 love forged in war. I thought it would be a quiet tribute, a way to keep Dad's memory alive. I was wrong. Enter Karen Mitchell, the HOA president, a woman whose smile was as sharp as her tongue. Karen had ruled Willow Creek for years, her word law, her opinions gospel. She was the kind of person who'd fine you for a crooked mailbox or a blade of grass out of place. I'd always stayed out of her way, but that day something shifted. As I set up my display in the community center, Karen swept in, her heels clicking like a metronome. She scanned the room, her eyes landing on my photo. "That's quaint," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "But it's a bit dramatic, don't you think? Love forged in war?" "Honestly, Emily, it's not a movie poster." The crowd tittered, and my cheeks burned. I mumbled something about its sentimental value, but Karen wasn't listening. She leaned closer, her manicured nails grazing the frame. "This doesn't really fit the aesthetic we're going for. Maybe next year." I should have let it go. I should have nodded and moved on. But Dad's face in that photo, his proud, tired smile stirred something in me. "It's staying," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Karen's eyes narrowed, but she turned away, her heels clicking louder than before. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong again. The event was in full swing when I stepped away to grab a coffee. When I returned, my heart stopped. The photo was gone. The velvet board lay crumpled on the table. The plaque snapped in two. I scanned the room, my pulse racing, and saw Karen near the refreshment table, her hands suspiciously empty. I marched over, my voice shaking. "Where's my photo, Karen?" She blinked, feigning innocence. "Photo? Oh, that old thing? Maybe it fell somewhere." Her smile was a blade, and I knew. I just knew. I searched the room, my hands trembling, until I found it in the trash bin by the door, torn into jagged pieces. Dad's face split in half, Mom's dress crumpled like tissue. My vision blurred with tears, but rage burned hotter. "You did this?" I whispered, holding up the pieces. Karen shrugged. "Prove it." The crowd hushed, eyes darting between us. I was nobody, just the quiet librarian who kept to herself. Karen was the queen of Willow Creek. But I wasn't backing down. Not this time. The next day, I filed a complaint with the HOA board, demanding an investigation. Karen laughed it off, claiming I was overreacting to a misplaced photo. But I had an unexpected ally, Mrs. Evelyn Carter, a reclusive widow who lived at the end of my street. Evelyn, with her sharp eyes and sharper memory, had been at the event, lingering unnoticed in the corner. She approached me quietly, her voice low. "I saw her, Emily." Karen tore it up. I've got no love for her. She fined me last year for my rosebushes being too wild. Let me help you. Evelyn's testimony changed everything. She'd recorded part of the event on her phone, capturing Karen's smug expression as she tossed the photo into the trash. It wasn't airtight evidence, but it was enough to stir doubt in the HOA board, which Karen had long controlled. I pushed harder, hiring a lawyer with the last of my savings. The lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Rachel Nguyen, dug into Karen's history, uncovering a pattern of petty vendettas and HOA fines that bordered on extortion. The torn photo became a symbol of something bigger, a community fed up with Karen's reign. The case went to small claims court, where I sued Karen for emotional distress and destruction of property. I didn't expect to win, not really. I just wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. But Rachel was relentless, presenting the photo's fragments, Evelyn's video, and testimonies from neighbors who'd been bullied by Karen for years. The judge, a stern man with a soft spot for veterans, listened as I recounted Dad's story, how he'd carried that photo through the war, how it had anchored him through battles and loss. When I choked up describing Mom's smile, the courtroom was silent. Then came the twist no one saw coming. During the trial, a man named Thomas Reed, a retired journalist who'd recently moved to Willow Creek, stood up in the gallery. He'd been quiet until then, but his voice carried weight. "I knew Benjamin Harper," he said, his words cutting through the room. "We served together in '44. That photo wasn't just a picture, it was his talisman. He said it kept him alive." Thomas produced a letter Dad had written him decades ago, mentioning the photo's significance. The judge's face softened, and Karen's composure cracked. The verdict was swift. Karen was found liable for $20,000 in damages, far more than I'd expected, as the judge factored in the photo's irreplaceable sentimental value. The HOA, humiliated by the publicity, banned Karen from all events and stripped her of her presidency. She stood in the courtroom, her face pale, her empire crumbling. I should have felt triumphant, but all I could see were the torn pieces of Dad's smile, unfixable no matter the money. As weeks passed, Willow Creek changed. Neighbors started talking more, sharing stories over fences instead of hiding from Karen's wrath. Evelyn became a regular at my house, bringing her 2 wild roses and stories of her own. Thomas joined us sometimes, his war stories weaving Dad's memory back into my life. But the victory was hollow. The photo was gone, and with it, a piece of my heart. I'd framed the fragments, but they mocked me from my mantle, a reminder that some things can't be restored, no matter how hard you fight. Karen moved away a month later, her house sold quietly. Rumors swirled that she'd started over in another town, already terrorizing a new HOA. I didn't care. I'd won, but at what cost? The money sat untouched in my account, useless against the ache of loss. One night, I sat with Evelyn and Thomas, the 3 of us sipping tea in silence. "He'd be proud of you," Thomas said, his eyes on the broken frame. I nodded, but tears fell. Proud or not, Dad was gone, and the photo, their love, their hope, was just a memory now, as fragile as the paper it had been printed on. In the end, Willow Creek learned a lesson about power and pettiness, but I learned a harder one. Justice doesn't heal a broken heart. It just leaves you standing in the wreckage, holding pieces you can't put back together. ND.